Good evening. This is Penelope Flynn and the rest of the Blerdsassins Next Door here in the Other Hood on this lovely March 2nd, 2024 edition of our show. And it is, of course, Black Women in Horror Month. And we're going to talk about Black women in horror seen on the big and small screen. But before we get started, as usual, we're going to talk a little bit about the weather. Otto, you are top center, so you get to start us off. How's the weather?
It was beautiful. Another beautiful day. Another beautiful weekend. Sunny. It's 70s. Light breeze. I got nothing to complain about. I know,
Oh,
and get used to this little bit of non-complaining because I know come July and August, this is going to be a hellhole.
yes, yes, and yes. All right. Well, James, are you experiencing similar or different weather where you are up in New York City?
all day, all day. It's been a Beatles song. Rain.
Hmm.
We've had rain all day. It's finally let up a little bit. Right now it's supposedly 50 degrees, but it feels a little colder than that.
Wow. All right. And how about you, Sonia, up in Rochester? What's going on?
It is a beautiful day now. The rain finally stopped. We had rain, much like James did, but it's now 45 degrees. We went from 70 as a high to
Wow.
22 degrees to now
Wow.
45.
Well, enjoy. And
It's the
Cranston?
yep, it's the
Go ahead.
hottest winter on record here in Rochester.
Wow, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Well, Cranston, how about you in Jacksonville?
We had 70s most of the week. Then it went down to the lower 60s. Then it started raining, and it's supposed to start raining again tonight and into tomorrow. So it's kind of like we're adjusting weather. All the people with allergies are happy because they said it's knocking all the pollen out of the air.
Excellent.
I'm not really sure, but
Good to hear.
it's been tolerable.
All right, fantastic. All right, now everybody should be all in their places with sunshiny faces as we get ready to start our discussion about Black women in horror. And for those who are seeing us in Facebook, there's some of the little instructions that say you have to kind of log in with StreamYard so we'll be able to see your names when you're making your comments. But if you want to comment anonymously, that's fine too. Um, as the story goes, for a long time, you didn't see very many Black women in horror unless it was a horror film that was populated by mostly Black people. But as we moved more recently, we have quite a few Black women faces either in leads or in supporting roles in horror. And we just want to take a moment to start talking about some of them because hopefully during this month of Black women in horror, we'll be able to see some of these programs, find them, online wherever it is that we can. Because some of them, in all honesty, I didn't know about or I didn't see because I attached some information, two links, I think, in the description for the show. So if you can see that and you're in on Facebook or if you're watching us on YouTube, dive on into that. And please feel free to comment on any of these or give us your opinions regarding some of these Black women in horror and where we can find some that we have not actually named or mentioned. I don't know where we want to get started. I know all been watching horror or horror adjacent programming for quite a while. I know that I'm a huge horror fan. I know Otto is. I know James is. Cranston, I know you lean more science fiction, but I know you've got a lot of horror too in your background. And
Yeah.
Sonia has been like a horror neophyte because it was not her main focus. She was more science fiction, fantasy than horror, but it's a lot of fun. I know there are a lot of films out there. One that I have to name first is one of my favorites. I think is still the best comic book to film. I don't say franchise, but film is Blade. The original Blade was sexy. It was slick, beautifully done, wonderful fight choreography. Wesley Snipes was fantastic. Sanaa Lathan was fantastic as his mother, and I just hit this went in and out of my head. Who played Dr. Karen? The actress that played Dr. Karen was phenomenal, and it was wonderful to see a black female as the lead, female character in this film, which is, I mean, again, gorgeous, just beautiful and slick. And again, still one of my favorite horror films, favorite um, comic book to film uh, work ever. So, anybody else have one that they feel that strongly about? I mean, I just everything about that film was so beautifully slick. And the vampires with the different houses, their own marks, their own rules. I love hierarchies. I love individuals who are trying to, push their way up. Those who are trying to maintain. It was just lovely. I mean, just lovely.
And
Yeah, what
Boucher
happened
Wright.
to her in the sequels? I mean, did they
Yeah,
just
they
give
just
her?
yeah, just like Dr. Karen disappeared.
Hmm.
And
Like they acted
And
like she
Boucher
never
Wright.
existed.
And
Hmm?
Boucher Wright played the
Yeah,
doctor.
Nebuchadnezzar, right. Thank you. Yes, who played Dr. Karen. Phenomenal, beautiful, excellent performer. I just loved everyone in it. Sanaa Lathan, excellent in the role as his mother. Just a
And
wonderful
you
film.
know what I liked about it,
Hmm.
also, is about the way that the black women were filmed.
Yes, the camera work was lovely. The coloring of like the blue filter so that you would see, all just their beautiful skin. It was just magnificent. But so many cinematographers cannot get that right to show their beautiful skin to its best effect. It is, just wonderful. If you have not seen it, and if you're into horror, vampires, it is just so beautifully slick. If you put it on your list if you have not seen it. It is again one of my favorites. And
Now is that the?
mhm.
I say, is that the one that Guillermo del Toro did early in his career? That one, the first Blade.
No, the first Blade is David Goyer.
Oh, okay.
Surprising that is actually so good. But
Yeah.
yeah, he nailed that. I mean, if he had stayed in that mindset and continued, I think that he would be more than just a footnote. He would be, a major, major player.
But
I know he's
think
still
what
out
that
there
film would
doing
be
things.
like if and Boucher Wright and the Dr. Karen character was not in that film.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I thought she was magnificent in that role. It was so well done. And I don't understand why they did not bring her back in the second film. I mean, they like completely fell off the map in the second film, and the third film was they were in the abyss. Just like I thought, what a piece of garbage. I mean, when you are the major, you're the name character in the film, and you are like a special guest star. That was absolute garbage. Wesley Snipes had every reason to be upset. He deserved so much better. I could tell in the second one when they had what is it the vampires that were the clan that they had in that film, and they just killed them all off. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm doing spoilers, but what was the point in that to create something that was really actually useful to doing a sequel and then just to kill them all off? It made
Well, I felt I
the
was
blood
tricked.
pack. Yeah, the blood pack. I don't understand why they got rid of the blood pack.
Well, I felt I was tricked, because
Hmm.
I really liked the Dr. Karen character. She reminded me of a lot of black girls and women that I grew up with. She
Hmm.
was smart, but she wasn't, that kind of Hollywood stupid smart. Because she was smart, she was the doctor. She
Hmm.
had a problem. She came up
Yes.
with a solution,
Right.
and she also knew how to fight and defend herself
Yes.
and maneuver her way through, tough places in the big city.
Hmm.
So all of that really, I thought that was going to be in the second film, and she was nowhere to be seen.
And we were robbed. And I think that, as she said in the film, I'm a quick study. I'll figure it out. In the chat with someone indicating The Devil's Daughter in 1939 stars the now forgotten major African American movie star Nina Mae McKinney. So I do that. So if we go to look that up, 1939, The Devil's Daughter, Nina Mae McKinney. I have not seen that. I don't believe I've seen it. So that should be on our list of to watch. Correct?
Yeah, I had posted that on my writers page
Okay.
actually, and also going back and back then, you had a voodoo pitch movie with Freddie Washington in it.
Hmm. I.
Um,
Oh,
the name escapes me right now,
hmm.
but really, the first what people call the first sci-fi horror,
Hmm.
black sci-fi horror movie, Son of Nganji. You had Laura Bowman.
Hmm.
Okay, she played the mad scientist in that. And the thing about it was, before she got into movies, she was part of a black vaudeville chitlin circuit um act. Her and her husband.
Hmm. What did she do after that? After the Son of God, did she
She,
continue in the horror first, or move on to
yeah, she
drama?
was either before. I think before Sunny and Gaji, she also did a voodoo movie too, which the
Hmm.
name escapes me. But yeah, you can consider her early black woman of horror.
Fantastic. Why
And
no?
then also, on a shorter note, you got to give props to what's her name,
Okay.
Ketty Lester.
Hmm.
She played the part of the black cab person in Blackula.
Ah,
Yeah.
right.
She was great,
Yeah.
and she was bitten and became a vampire, but
Right.
Yeah.
she was very funny too. I thought
Mhm.
Yes.
she was very funny and
Yeah.
real.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
also in the chat we have somebody that mentioned Demon Knight with Jada Pinkett, and I definitely want to go back to that film, and I want to mention it now because it's mentioned in the chat. But to go back to that, but also Cynthia Bond in Death by Temptation, who is James Bond the Third's wife, I believe, who played the role of the temptress monster, in that. So that was also, I think, it's again a good beginning for him, and I wished that he had moved on and created more films because I thought that other than the production value on the monster itself, I think he did a really good first outing on that film. So I wish we'd
I
seen
did
more.
too. I
I
thought he
really
did a
wish we'd
very
seen
good
more.
job.
And
Very good job.
also in the chat, whoever the Facebook user is, because it shows you as Facebook user, if you can sign in with StreamYard so that we show who you are, so we can refer to you. But otherwise, if you want to be anonymous, that is fine as well. But Freddie Washington's did mention, I believe, the film that you're talking about, James. It said Owanga,
Yeah.
Ouanga, Owanga.
Mhm.
Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
super. Okay, all right. So I mean, and anybody else that wants to jump on in with your favorites, because if I would say mentioning Demon Knight, now Demon Knight to me is like one of the ultimate final girl films with Jada Pinkett. Because at the very beginning, as we're watching this film, we have no idea from the very beginning that she is going to be our final girl. So it was really such a great surprise. It was such a um, wonderful film. The film was directed by who directed it?
Ernest Dickerson,
Ernest Dickerson, because he's usually the camera cinematographer behind a lot of Spike Lee
and
films.
don't forget CCH Pounder.
And CCH Pounder also was in the film, not the final girl, but she certainly was in the film, an important role. So if you have never seen Demon Knight, which is unfortunately the only one of those films, the Tales of the Crypt films, I think, that was actually very good. Everything else afterwards just kind of fell a little bit off the mark,
It's
but
not kind of. It's not
y-
kind of. It's
yeah, they
so
did.
bad. It's so
Yeah,
bad. Those the rest of the films are so bad. I probably put them in James category bad.
yeah, yeah.
Um, like they should be burned for heat.
Listen, listen. As Charlie Sheen says, bring it, bring it. I I open my arms to all B movies.
Yeah, there you go, King of the Bees. We understand. We bring them to you. We will take these, and they will be deposited at your feet at your throne, sir.
Yes, I am. I am
Uh,
a sanctuary city for lousy movies.
all right, there we go. All right,
But
and
CCH Pounder and
yes,
Jada Pinkett
yeah,
was
yeah,
very strong black women, not
yes,
stereotypical at
right,
all. Zero.
right. It's excellent work. And also in the comments, someone indicated this Tyler Perry as Medea and Boo in the sequel Boo 2 count. And the answer is no. It does not. It does not. No.
So
But
he
it does. But it may count as one of the B films at James's feet at his throne.
no, why the cut? He's not even a woman.
Yeah, but also he's not a woman, and also I don't think it's horror, is it? I don't. Is it
It's
horror?
horrible.
Horrible. I've never seen the film, but
Okay, I may have to take back that Sanctuary
No,
City
too
thing.
late.
no, too
Now
late.
I'm
Yeah.
locking it. I'm locking the gate.
Too
No.
late.
All right, but I mean, but I know we've named a lot of the some of the more historic films, but is there anything that you all can point to that's more recent? I mean, I'm going to tell you, I never saw completely the film. Um, I know what you did last summer, but I was reading one of these articles, one of the ones that I posted in this as reading materials, that Brandy was, I think, one of the final girls in that film. I
Mhm.
didn't know it because I never saw it to the end. So I thought that was interesting that she was one of the final girls.
Yeah, there were a couple they did at the turn of the century where it seemed that Angela Bassett became the go-to for um, one that was sort of low budget and one that had higher aspirations but didn't quite make it. The one that was kind of deliberately low budget was one called Supernova with James Spader,
I
where
like
she,
Supernova, but I
yeah,
saw I like the Supernova a lot.
yeah. It was good. It was sort of like when they got to the point where the crazy guy emerges. It's kind of like they said, "Well, just throw this in there and see if that'll work," because it didn't seem to be too coherent.
Right, right.
And the other one she did was one with Ray Fiennes called "Strange Days," which took
But
place at the supposed millennium, and she was this kind of like I don't know if she was an ex-cop or whatever she was, but she was this
mhm,
limousine driver,
mhm.
and she was one of those take no prisoners, take no crap type of people and everything, and she made it through to the end. So,
Yeah, but see, I thought that more of like a thriller than horror.
hmm
I mean, and I'm the in one of the lists they listed Taraji P Henson, and I could not remember the name of the film, but I knew the film that she did. There was a horror film when she was with Idris Elba, and he has a car accident or breakdown, and she lets him come into her house.
Is that a thriller? Is that a horror or thriller?
Well, I mean, he was definitely trying to kill her, so I thought it was
But
kind
but
of
what?
horrible to be killed by a psychopath. I thought, I
Well,
mean, I
yeah.
considered it
But what?
horror
What?
because he did kill people in the
But
film, and it was scary.
but we always have to go back to the definition of what's horror and what's a thriller. What is your
Yeah,
definition of horror?
I mean, I would think that horror is a movie that makes you fearful, and generally also when people get killed. Like Chucky is a horror film, and I think that's the same kind of thing. Just because the psychotic is not a little puppet doesn't make it any less horror.
A thriller is more like in the Alfred Hitchcock vein. You know, North by Northwest.
About
More
Um,
thriller.
Psycho. What about
Psycho's a
Psycho?
horror film
Psycho is horror.
Psy- Why is it horror?
because people got killed. And I think I said that earlier.
Yeah,
People got killed.
yeah,
No, but in North by
pretty much.
Northwest, people got killed.
Yeah, but it's
And not,
that suspense, and you don't
but I think
know.
normal killing, and abnormal killing, I guess. When you have
yeah,
spies doing spy stuff who have it in their minds that the job I do is dangerous and this could result in me being killed. But not, hey, I'm an insurance guy. I'm gonna go in here or a detective. I'm gonna go visit this old lady. Oh, she's not an old lady. She's a man with a hat with a stabbing knife. He stabbed me and I'm gonna fall backwards. That's
Let
horror.
me ask you,
Yeah,
what about
which that was the weirdest fall backwards I
Oh
have
my
ever
gosh,
seen.
one of my favorite
what a great
visual
shot?
of shots ever. I love that.
But
I love that.
what about Halle Berry and Gothica? Is that horror?
I think Gothica is horror. All those they killed all those girls. It was scary. I mean, it was for and it's a ghost story. So yeah, absolutely. I think Gothic is horror. Does anybody else disagree? I know that in the on the comments they're saying that yeah, Lupita Nyong'o in I guess the Jordan Peele film, the what's it?
Oh, other
Us,
Us, us.
us,
us.
us. So yeah, that film
I can see
is
how that
gonna.
could be horror. And, my definition of horror is a little different.
Mhm.
My definition of horror is supernatural with it has to have some supernatural element in it. For instance, Chucky, right?
Mhm.
Supernatural. Psycho, nothing supernatural is Psycho.
Still horror.
Still
You have
horror.
to you have to change your definition then because that's horror.
Yeah,
I'm
because
a woman. I'm
Demon
going
Knight.
to. I'm a woman. I'm going to a place. It's a hotel. I have no expectation that I'm going. I mean, may have expectations somebody may rob me, unlocking my door. I mean, some crazy person, even, horror of the thing of somebody to molest you even. But I have no expectation that a man dressed up as his dead mother gonna come in a knife when I'm in the shower and stab me to death.
Well,
That is
And
horror.
and there was a question of whether it was a split personality or if it was his mother possessing him
why does
to
that make
Yeah,
it
do.
horror? Yeah,
Because
to
if
but
me,
it's
it's
if
it's
it's
like,
his mother possessing him, then it's a spirit taking over his body, and you
well, it's
weren't
just a
quite
psycho.
sure which one it was
I
towards the
mean,
end.
honestly, being killed by a crazy person
It's a
in my mind is
psychosis.
still
It,
it's still horror. I
it's
don't. I mean,
psychosis.
it's still horror. I don't,
So is
regardless
it?
of psychosis.
Let me. If the Jeffrey Dahmer story is that horror?
Yeah, that's horror. Even though it's real, it's true life. It's a true life horror. I mean, I go to a club and I'm being normal. I'm hanging out. I meet somebody, and I think that it's just gonna be a hangout, a hookup, or whatever. Oh, not that they kill me. They eat my body. Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. That's horror.
Yeah,
That's
well,
horror.
the drilling in your head part, yeah, that would be pretty horrible. So yeah.
These are horror. That's terrible. And somebody's also mentioned that Jada Pinkett was in one of the Scream sequels, and I remember seeing that opening where they're at the theater, and she wasn't in it very long, but she was in it. Um, and then they comment also, and I think it's the same user, but I'm not sure. They a very underrated CCH Pounder and Paul Winfield in White Dwarf, crucial black lead presences, science fiction fantasy, but sort of relevant. Okay, that has been put on the list then for our, I think, science fiction, Women in Science Fiction Month is next month. So we may want to, revisit that science fiction. Um, but also, I guess one of the issues we have then is, for instance, something like not the previous, not the early Kindred, but the more recent Kindred by Octavia Butler. Is that horror or not horror?
I would say it's horror.
You think so?
Yeah, if you find yourself that 1 minute, something, first of all, something you have no control over. So that's that horrible
Hmm.
thing about, that 1 minute you're living your life in the mid 20th century, the next thing you're 100 years in the past, and then you don't know how you're going to get back or why you're
Hmm.
being sent there. So that's
Hmm.
pretty much the thing. This is the idea that you have the lack of control over your situation. And I think that's probably the essence of horror is something that you help you're a witness to what's happening to you. You don't have any agency over it.
Right. Okay. Well, someone mentioned also Naomi Harris. Mark in the comments has indicated Naomi Harris in 28 Days Later. And we were talking about that again, another of our final girls or final femmes, as they want to say, that she was great in 28 Days Later. And I'd forgotten about that until I saw one of those articles I read today that, yeah, she did make it through to the end. And I,
Oh, what would? Oh, we're forgetting. Oh God, I can't remember her name or the name of the movie. The vampire movie, and in fact, she died. The singer. Oh God, what is her name? What is it?
Akasha, Aaliyah, and
Aaliyah.
Akasha, Queen of the Damned.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. And also, if you would have named those in the same breath, name Grace Jones.
Hmm.
Wait a
yeah.
minute.
And
Before we leave,
mhm,
uh, Queen of the Dam, we
mhm.
can't not say that that was a horrible movie. That was horrible.
Well, I mean, I think the thing that is so unfortunate is that they spit. I mean, I know it's a Lestat film, and they wrote the film as a Lestat film, even though she was a more interesting character, and they should not have focused as much on him. They should have actually done her origin story only,
Mhm.
and then done another film. I think that she was more interesting than he was. So I think they, they call it Queen of the Damned, but and again, I know it's a Lestat film, but the more focus should have been on the Queen of the Damned instead of on him.
Well, it's that thing that they say, well, certain people can't carry the lead in a movie, so
Mhm.
we're going to kind of sneak it around, and they just don't give it a chance to.
Yeah, but she was much more compelling on screen, I think, than he was.
And
I don't.
and was that Carol Speed that was in Abby? Who played Abby?
Abby in the vampire
No,
film.
Abby was black exploitation. She was um what was it? She was possessed. It was kind of a knockoff of The Exorcist. It was a black version of The Exorcist.
No, I didn't see it, so I put that on my list
I remember
of
the
to
name,
watch it.
but I remember the title. But we
Yeah.
we gotta come up with a different term other than black exploitation. I just detest that term.
Well, it's set in the era. It is in that era, not that it was that kind of film,
Well,
but in
we'll
that
just
era.
call them low budget black films or indie
Okay.
black films, because I've
Yeah,
noticed
yeah.
that a lot of
Mhm.
those things, like that Melvin Van Peebles did with Sweetback and
Mhm.
most of Robert Townsend's things would have been considered indie films because they were
Yeah,
done with those kind of budgets,
independent funding. Yeah.
but they never get that label of being an indie film. Clerks, oh, that's an indie film, but
So
Hollywood Shuffle isn't.
why isn't it? What is it then called instead of an indie film?
I think it's just the gatekeeping and the sort
Black
of
exploitation.
narrow
Well, no,
definition.
independent films tend to not have network backing. I
Hmm.
mean, big Hollywood studio backing.
So why
They're
isn't it called
lower
an indie
budget.
film?
But I mean, when Robert Townsend was doing Hollywood
Hollywood
Shuffle,
Shuffle.
he
Yeah.
was paying people with gas for their cars on his credit cards. You can't get
Yeah.
much more
Yes,
indie
Yeah.
that's
than
indie
that.
indie.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's
but
his
But they
story's a
don't call it
classic.
that. Yeah, they don't call it that though.
they
Independent film.
never have considered that or put it in that category. It's like, well, black people can't make independent films unless it's something like Sorry to Bother You or something like that.
Yeah, but that was the quintessential
Well, there was a
independent film.
small, wasn't it a small, very small period of time where there was black independent films like Another Girl on the IRT and
Mhm.
even James Bond's movie, the vampire movie. Weren't those black independent films? Weren't they
Well,
considered
yeah. I mean, also Julie
for a very
Dash's film.
short time?
Yeah, Daughters of the Dust. I
Yeah,
believe
Daughters
Yeah,
but
of
that
the
was
Dust.
that was that was mainly the 80s where you
Yeah.
had a lot of black independent films. I mean, where I work at, oh God, one of the tenants, she was in a couple of black independent films back then. Um, Alba's Rainbow,
Hmm.
and then of course you had, I mean, Spike Lee in the 80s.
Yeah, that's true. And his films are all independent films.
Yeah,
I don't know if his films are
At the beginning,
independent
at the early,
films.
with his early
no,
films,
his early films were
like She's Gotta
independent.
Have It.
Yeah,
hmm
That
yeah,
was
all of
independent
that,
film. Hmm.
all those films, and even before that, because actually he had did an independent film about a barber shop
Hmm.
he filmed in Brooklyn, and I think Bradford Marsalis had a small part in the film. So yeah, the eighties were mainly that's when
Hmm.
That
um
small period of time.
They
yeah,
had those
Mhm.
independent films.
Yeah.
Okay.
and I wouldn't even say it was a small period of times. You've always had black independent films. It's just that
They don't get
it
that moniker,
right
you know.
and it ebbs and flows with the
Hmm.
industry. I mean, Melvin Van Peebles, Sweetback, that was an independent film.
But it's caught up in the so-called black exploitation era.
Yeah, but that's that. was because people back then didn't really know how to label. You know what I'm saying? That was
Mhm.
a black independent film, just like Putney Swope and Ivan Dixon was doing black independent
Mhm.
films
Yeah, he
in, during
was.
the
Yeah.
60s. You know, and as far as like exploitation films, not only did you have black exploitation in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, but you had a lot of different what they call exploitation films. You had biker gang exploitation films, drug culture exploitation films. Um, there was even redneck
Mhm.
exploitation films. Cause remember the senator, what's his name, Fred?
In New York?
Yeah, no, the
Mhm.
The
senator.
guy who was a Republican that was on Law and Order.
Right,
Yeah.
right. He was the king of redneck
But you
exploitation
know what
films.
though? I get all that, but the only ones that touch me are the ones that call black exploitation films, which
Yeah,
I
and you know
thought is
what?
very
I think
demeaning.
okay, and that's a really good subject. Too bad it's not the subject tonight. We're
No,
supposed to
it's
be talking
not.
about black women in horror, and
We're
we're
talking
getting
about
all
black
off
Hmm.
women in horror,
category.
and
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah, but getting
and you
back,
know when they did Blackula, doing those so-called black exploitation films,
Mhm.
there were a lot of black actresses in the black exploitation films because Blackula was just it was just one film, but there
Mhm.
was sequels.
Yes.
yeah, and getting back to Abby, that was yes, that was Carol Speed.
Okay.
She was in Abby. Like I said, it was a knockoff of The Exorcist.
All right.
And Denise was it Denise Nichols in Blackula along with what's her name?
I thought Lynette McKee or one of the women like that who were
Yeah,
very
yeah,
scary.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
and
Right,
she
right.
was terrible. Gee
She was
whiz.
terrible, but she was
Ugh,
beautiful. She was
but
beautifully
she was
terrible.
terrible. Oi.
Well, listen. Back then, we all know we didn't go to those movies to focus on the acting.
Okay. All right.
She was beautifully terrible. But
Yes,
yeah,
she
she
was
was there.
quite horrible.
She was quite
Okay.
horrible, but she was better as his wife.
Yes, and she went. Yeah, it's just strange, you
But
know.
when they brought it to the 20th century,
She was
she
quite
became a bad
terrible.
actress. I don't
Yeah,
understand what happened.
and so
Oh,
and some and in the chat room, Mark Sebring has also indicated Sania Nanua in The Girl with All the Gifts, and she was excellent. That little girl
Mm.
She was
in that
very good,
role, she
very
was
good.
quite excellent. I agree, really good. Um, and that was another interesting horror film, and not it's not it, again an allegory, of those who are trying to help the individuals who are your oppressor, but you are working so hard to help those people while they are oppressing those who are just like you. And Mark is saying in the comments, she owned the role, and she surely did.
Hmm.
Uh, do we know if she is doing any other work? Has she done anything since that role? And she really did an excellent job, and it's a frightening film. But again, it's like times are changing. The world has changed, so we have to change with it. And some people, they're pushing back against change, and then others are accepting that change. We need to prepare this new these new people for this new world.
What do you
So
mean? What are you referring to by change? What do you mean?
in the film, The Girl with All the Gifts, that all the children who had contracted this, I don't know, this illness, condition from the pods, that then they became like monsters, vampiric, zombified things, vampiric, I guess. And the governments, were trying to find them, destroy them, etc. But the reality was that this thing happened to the children, and that means all the children of the world have changed now. And eventually the adults are going to die out, and they have to prepare these new children for this world, because that's all there is now, is to prepare them to continue the world. And so I think, but they had her working for them to try to find these other people, or to figure out how to undo whatever it was that happened to these children to make them this way, and killing those children who had been turned into whatever based on these pods. So I thought it was very interesting that the this concept that the world is changing, and you refuse to accept the fact that it is changing, and you have to now find what your role is in the world. And it may not be to be at the very top. It may be trying to assist those who are now going to take the reins. That's all. Yeah, and he was saying, and in fact, Marcus put a link in the chat regarding the young woman, and then said the kids had all the benefits of the zombies, but retained their humanity and minds. So that's basically what's going on in the
Well,
film. And I thought it was really good.
well, that was the metaphor for the second I Am Legend movie.
Mhm.
Okay, Omega Man with Charleston Heston and
Mhm.
Rosalind Cash. Um, a lot. It kind of flew over a lot of people's heads, but really the metaphor was that Charleston Heston's character was part of the old world.
Mhm.
Okay, he was a relic of the old world, and all the pseudo zombies that were
Mhm.
after him, they were part of a new world, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, Rosalind Cash, she was in it.
Exactly. So that's another black woman in horror. Rosalind
Hmm.
Cash as the lead female in Omega Man.
Yeah, and when they made it, she had a problem with scenes with Charleston Heston, intimate scenes,
Mhm.
because she said every time she would go to kiss him, she would think of Ben Hur or Moses from the Ten Commandments, you know. And so they finally got past that, but
Okay. Very good.
yeah, Omega Man, that was
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I forgot about Omega Man.
And what's the other Charleston Heston movie that was similar to that? And was it Soylent Green or whatever? I forgot
Yes.
Yeah,
the
Soylent
name of
Green.
the the black woman that was in that movie.
Paula
Paula
Kelly.
Kelly.
Paula
Hmm.
Kelly. She was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah,
She
Mhm.
also looked
and
fantastic, and
Mhm.
she was fantastic in it. And for some reason, these Charleston Heston movie has black women stuff in them. It was kind of
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
well,
That's absolutely.
that was before he swerved over to the right. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Pre
just
NRA Charlton Heston. Yeah.
right,
yes. Political opportunist Charlton Heston.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and none for none, the same people that produced Omega Man produced Soylent Green too.
Ah. Well, there you go. There you go.
But they look the same.
Yeah,
Mhm.
They look the same. And the thing is, also though, just like we said about Blade, is that what I really pay attention to is how black women are filmed, how they look, their makeup,
Mhm.
their hair,
Right.
all that stuff that I guess people overlook, may not overlook. It's all very important to me,
Mhm.
and I think in all those movies, the Jada Pinkett movie,
Mhm.
Demon Knight, the black women, either they had their own makeup people or whatever, but they really did a great job.
Well, yeah, because you have to figure Ernest Dickerson is filming it. He knows how to
Hmm.
film the black women, in these scenes. So that's not surprising that he would get that right. It was more surprising that Christopher Nolan got it right. Um, in Blade,
You mean Goyer?
Goyer, and Blade. No, who did the filming? Who did the cinematography? Not the directing. I don't know. I can't remember. I thought it was Nolan who did the directing. I did the cinematography, but I think it's really great when you actually do get the filming done where women look like women, and not, kind of like sweaty and, like they do in
Hmm.
prison films. And I was trying to think about the fact that although we see her in a lot of stuff, did Pam Grier ever do any horror?
yes, she did.
What did she
She
do?
did. She for back then for a while she was doing a lot of films for American International over in the Philippines, and
Hmm.
she did a She did a movie over there. It was basically a knockoff of the Island of Dr. Moreau.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. The again, the name escapes me, but yeah, she did I think she did a couple more horror movies
Really?
I
after
think she
that.
was in. Wasn't she in one of the Blackula sequels?
I
Was
think
she
she
the
was in the
girlfriend?
second one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was she one of the his love interests in the second one? I think you're right. And Scream Black the Scream, is that the one?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because back then, listen, she was the go-to,
Yeah, yeah.
when it came to well, actually any different types of genres, with her.
Mhm.
But yeah, she did a
Yeah.
movie. She did a movie in the Philippines, a horror movie.
Mhm.
Back then, believe it or not, the movie industry in the Philippines was thriving.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of the other horror movie she was in. Um, because I think I could be wrong, but I think she did two horror movies in the Philippines, and then also a prison movie in the Philippines. So
Huh. Okay.
yeah, women behind. That was another genre back then. Women
Yes, one
behind
behind
bars.
bars.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, with Shelley Winters. It's like Black Mama, White Mama, or something like that, or
Yeah.
Mhm.
the kind of garbage like that. James would know it.
yeah.
Huh.
No,
Okay, I'm trying.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Okay, the Twilight People. Is that it?
I
The
think
film
that's
with
it.
Pam
Yeah.
Grier. Yes, and she plays a Panther woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Panther
Okay.
woman. Yes. 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 And who was it that played the role? What is it called? Cat People that played the role of Female in the version with
The
Malcolm
Val
McDowell.
Newton, the Roddy
The
McDowell. I don't know.
no, the Malcolm McDowell version. Who was it that played the role of Female? Do you remember that? Cat People.
I remember it.
Ruby D,
Ruby
I
D
think.
plays
Yeah,
Female. I
yeah.
think that's it.
Yeah, that was one of those that you said, okay, I think I'll skip that one. So yeah,
No, I mean, I thought some of the things in that were very interesting, especially when they showed how, like, to do the cat stuff. What they did was have them run their movements backwards, like the jumps and stuff, with them doing things backwards in order to get the look of like the cats jumping onto something. So I thought that was some of the things were interesting. I didn't think it was that terrible. Nastasia Kinski wasn't that terrible, but Ruby
My,
D was a black woman in horror in that film. So yeah, and yeah,
Uh, I was gonna say Bianca on the small screen.
uh
We
huh.
had Bianca Larson playing almost everything horror related or adjacent, dark fantasy, vampire, etc. related on TV.
Bianca.
Lawson, she was
Oh, Bianca
Kendra.
Lawson, Kendra the Vampire
Yeah,
Slayer.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember her. Kendra's
And
Kendra the
she
Vampire
was also in Vampire Diaries and a whole bunch of other. If they needed someone, they usually yanked her out.
Slayer.
And
Hmm.
we just watched one. What was that lady? I gotta look her up. It was the same producer of Vampire Diaries just did Vampire Academy, and there's several black ladies in that one. Hold on, let me look it up.
Hmm.
Well, you also
Uh,
have to know if you're going to television, you have to know Angela Bassett in America Horror
Oh my
Story.
gosh, yeah, Angela Bassett in American Horror Stories. Oh, what is the who else? The other woman who plays the also in she was in American Horror Story, and she was also I think in True Blood. Who is that? The I'll look it up for True Blood, and then she'll reveal herself for American Horror Stories. But yeah, Angela Bassett is what in
The
Coven,
actress who
right?
played Precious, I've forgotten that actress who played Precious.
The Gabourey Sidibe.
Yep, she was in American
She
Horror
also
Story.
American Horror Story,
They,
Coven, and then the one
she was,
after
and,
Coven.
and the thing is, not just being in it, that's
Yes,
okay, but also being very good in it, very good.
yes, yes. and seminal roles in it. Um, I'm trying to think. Oh, and who was it? The one? Oh, yeah, Rutina Wesley also was on. From beginning to end. I think um, in True Blood. So I'm trying to think. Adina Porter. That's who played Letty Mae Thornton in True Blood, and I believe that she also shows up in American Horror Story. And American Horror Stories.
What role was she in American Horror Story?
Okay, she was Beverly Hope. Chief Burleson, I think she plays in the one where the people were out in that island with the little girl who played violin. She was the chief, the police chief.
Oh, okay.
She was one of the witches in Coven, but not Coven, the one that came after Coven, where
Hmm.
they were trying to get rid of the witches. The one where we finally have the strange uh, denouement where they go back to the past,
Yeah.
and in that one she was also one of the witches in that one. So yeah, she plays Beverly Hope, and 37 episodes of
And
American Horror.
Gabrielle Sidibe is also an American Horror
That's right.
Story.
Gabrielle Sidibe is in
Stories.
the stories and story both.
Mhm. Stories is a offshoot of American Horror Story.
Yeah, and they're shorts almost. So yeah, that's yeah. So yeah, we have so many people. I mean, now who are in this horror genre as actresses. It's really, really nice to see. Uh, you know, these roles portrayed from the point of view of young and older, black women. Also, what is the one with and my mind just went blank. What is her name? Uh, it just went in and out of my head. The singer. Um, the hair, uh, the I don't know, it just went right out of my head. That she does the movie. What is it? Where they go back in time. They think they've gone back in time into a slave plantation, but it's
Oh,
not really. You know what I'm talking about?
there were two of those. There was one that I want to say Janelle Monet did.
Janelle Monet. That's
That
the
was
Yeah.
one. Jan-
the Kindred knockoff. Oh,
Well, it
excuse me,
was.
inspiration. The Kindred inspired. The writer even said it was
well,
inspired
it may have
by.
been inspired by it, but it wasn't really because in Kindred they actually go back. In this they
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't.
but they
and
couldn't get
that's
the rights to Kindred, so they let it
but that
inspire them.
yeah, but
Hmm
that's my
Ooh,
thing about
gross.
hmm
horror though. I mean,
hmm
in Janelle Monet, version of Kindred, to me, it's not really horror. It's like some conspiratorial
Yeah,
thing. And in Kindred, it's actual horror because this thing is
yeah,
actually
it actually
so.
happened.
So to me, in my definition, one is horror and one isn't.
hmm Yeah, and I'm also looking at this thing. What is that? The show that about the woman who goes to the changeling. Changeling is also that's horror, isn't it? Kind of. I haven't seen all of it yet.
Any changeling is horror, yeah.
It's horror, yeah. So that is
And
a
if you go to that, you have to do being human.
yes. Oh my gosh, Being Human. Definitely the BBC version with Lenora Critchlow, who was phenomenal every season that she was in Being Human. And then in the what is it called? The horror noir that was
Black
on
noir.
Shutter, Black Noir on Shutter. That she was in that those shorts, the anthology show.
She was
Quite excellent.
she was excellent. Once again, I'm overstating it, but the filming and the coloring and the just somebody really took their
Yeah,
time to make sure that
costuming,
yeah,
everything, just
the hair, the
beautiful.
makeup,
Yeah,
the lighting.
yeah, lovely, frightening, beautiful. Just because they did a great job, and that was Tanan Reeve and Steve Barnes. Were really, I think, the force behind that, pushing that project forward, and really, really quite
It
good.
was
I know,
excellent.
believe that even Robin Givens directed one
Yeah,
of
she did,
those. It was quite good.
and she did an excellent job.
Excellent job. So if you all want to see these things, just all these films and television that we're listing, get out and see them. This is a good time during Black Women in Horror Month to do that. And this is our film, and hopefully we'll roll into some of the other media where you can find Black women in horror. But these are certainly a good place to start
Yeah.
for viewing these horror presentations and performances, and really in realizing that the roles are not again stereotypical, where you're running around and screaming or got whatever they expect Black women to do in a horror film. They're all very um focused, role centered performances, that I have really enjoyed, the vast majority of the ones that we've mentioned.
Now there's another one. There is the other thing that sometimes you like shoot for the mountaintop and you end up in the valley, or you miss somewhere in the middle.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes you can. It's not a low budget. It's like a middle budget, but you
Mhm.
had everything going for it. But they kind of changed it somewhere along the way, and it
Mhm.
got lost. But this person's performance in it was good, and that was Viola Davis in the remake of Solaris, or the other
Yeah.
version of Solaris.
Yeah. Yeah, Solaris was I saw the original one when I was young. And then to see this version of Solaris, also yeah, she did a good job. Did a good job in it. And a lot of people, I guess, issue that science fiction horror, that kind of that um you know juncture right there. Some people think it's science fiction, other people's horror, but there is science fiction horror too.
Hmm.
That, of course,
Hmm.
being like what is Alien versus Predator with Sanaa Lathan,
Hmm.
in that role was fantastic. I loved it. I hoped that we see her again, but I guess in most of those films, those Alien and Predator films, you don't see people. It's the Predator films. You don't see many people coming back, again to reprise their role, then move
Hmm.
on to something else. But I thought it would be a great opportunity for her to come back and reprise the role of that of Lex Alex.
Well, I
I would
think
like that.
they might have had in the back of their minds they do it one day, but
Mm.
because you've got two competing franchises and you're running
Mhm.
into the possibility of franchise fatigue, because
Mhm.
it gets so they had the mythology gets so mixed up, you don't know
Right.
what's going on,
Right.
and I
And
think it
then,
just kind of died that way.
yeah, especially when you have something like Prometheus also dealing with the predator
Hmm.
um stuff. So it's like you got all these things mixed in, what falls where, in what timeline are all these things existing.
Hmm.
And it can get a little bit difficult when we're trying to establish what the canon is.
Hmm.
So yeah,
What
but I
about
still would like to see it.
what
Hmm.
about Octavia Spencer in that movie Ma?
Wow, that. But again, okay, that's
Is that
your.
horror?
Well, that's for in your definition. You think that it's not, just because she, had kind of,
I mean, nothing fantastical happens, but it's horrible, right?
yeah, just yeah, it's crazy horror. This it was scary. It was sad. It was, all these things mixed together, and yeah, it was horror. That I think is horror. I think it was definitely a horror film.
Now, something that I said, and I stopped watching it because I said, and I think we never did find out exactly why this decision was made, but it was Nicole Beharie in Sleepy Hollow, which was probably the best thing on the show. And then all of a sudden, she gets killed off for no apparent reason.
She
And
had
after
an
that, I
attitude
said,
problem.
okay.
What did he say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Otto.
She had an attitude problem.
Yeah, she got sick and expected to be taken seriously for her
Mm,
illness. Boy, what an attitude problem she has. It said, when her co-host Tom Mison was ill, then they worked around it. When she got ill, they still tried to make her work.
Hmm.
And she was treated badly because that's the only thing. This black woman in horror. That's the horror that black women live.
Yeah.
You know, this concept that you're like this workhorse and you just gotta keep on working. Despite the fact that you're not feeling well.
Yeah, you
And
can still make your quota no matter what.
that's right. Don't forget, what's that other 12 Years a Slave? Right. That is a definitely a form of horror. You know, but it's I guess based on true life horror, so they don't categorize it as
Is it
such. But
horror?
certainly,
It's not.
uh,
It's not horror. It would
I
be
mean, I
horror to me.
yeah, it's horror, but
Hmm.
it's real life horror. Things that happen to people that yeah, it's quite terrible.
What about
But
the Donald Glover movie Swarm, where he basically is a takeoff of uh, this black woman who is a huge Beyonce fan, and she comes up to people and always asks, "Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite singer?" And they
mhm.
don't say this Beyonce like character that's in the show. She kills them.
I don't. I mean, I think that a lot of Donald Glover stuff is dedicated at loathing and hate of black women. So I don't know what although the actress
Did anybody
I
else see that
heard,
movie?
although the
Yeah.
actress I heard did a really good job in it.
Yeah.
That's like doing a great job in something that denigrates you. So I don't know how to feel about that.
Anyone else see that show?
Mm.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
I'm the only one.
I remember starting to watch it, but I never saw the end of it.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
Okay,
What's it?
how do we know this? What you saw really exists if you're the only one that saw
Ah, there we go. I like
Because
it.
you can
Isn't
Google it. You
Okay.
can Google it, man.
Hmm.
Don't try to play me. Come on.
it? No,
Well, do you
I'm just
think it
saying
had?
nobody else heard of it.
I never
Well,
finished it. I have to admit,
Penelope
I
heard
didn't
of it.
finish it. I heard of it. I didn't
She
finish it.
she'd leave the room. She's one of
Yeah.
these shows. She would leave the room.
Yeah, and never come back. Okay, then I have this other show. You said that. It reminded me of a BBC show whose name I can't remember, but there was a the way that they first presented it, they presented it as if the main character was the Anglo female. And then you find out that no, it is about the black female. And it came on right before, what is the name of that show? Bubblegum?
Chewing
What is
gum.
Chewing
Bubble.
Gum? It
Chewing
came on
gum.
right before Chewing Gum. So I can't remember the name of it. It came up right before Chewing Gum. But that was really good. I thought they were going to get another season, but they didn't get another season. So I was really, really surprised. It was a very good show. It started out okay, but became a good show. But I was again very surprised they didn't get a second season. So surprised that I forgot the name of it, but it was interesting. It was very interesting.
Sounds.
And
I was
mhm.
gonna say that sounds like Tamara Taylor in October Faction. Netflix gave one season it was about a monster hunting family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
And I thought that I liked parts of it. Other parts I did not like at all. Um, I thought that the whole thing coming down to the fact that after all this, and I'm not going to say anything because other people may not have seen it, but kind of the twist ending to me was I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know how to feel about that.
I would have liked to see how it resolved
Mm.
itself.
Yeah, I know. Well, it comes from a graphic novel, so I guess if we, were that interested, we could have picked up the
Yeah.
graphic novel. But I was kind of, I don't know. I just like, I don't know, say disappointed, but I just didn't know how to feel about it and whether it's worth, following up to see exactly what happened, how this actually resolved. But yeah, that I recall that, October Faction. That was the thing that was out there. It was interesting, regarding persecution of witches. You know,
Mhm.
in a modern context. So I would think it'd be very interesting. for those who have an interest in that, to watch it and tell us what you think. Right?
What was the name of the show, Penelope, with the little girl? And it was only for one season, but they wrapped it up. It was on Fox.
The Passage.
The Passage.
What an excellent film. I mean, show. It's an excellent show. Wow. From beginning to
And it was
end.
only one
What a,
season,
only one
but they
season.
but they wrapped it. They began
When
it. Yeah, they found out that they weren't going to be renewed, and they wrapped it up.
Yeah, which I mean is sad because I really would have liked to have seen several more seasons of it. It was so well done. The male lead, female lead was a little girl. Male lead is an Anglo man who has lost a child. So this little girl becomes like a surrogate for the child that he has lost.
And
And
they had
and
such good chemistry.
yeah, fantastic, fantastic chemistry. It was very, very good. So if you are an individual who wants to see something, but you don't want to put the investment into multiple seasons, we tell you they wrap it up in one season.
Yeah.
It's The Passage. It is very good, very, very good. I enjoy it. Well, I'm looking at our clock, our counter, and we're down to the end of our time here with you. And
The
I
clock on the
thank you
wall.
all, yes, for showing up and enjoying the beginning of this Black Women in Horror Month. I hope that you've learned something. I have learned some things about some of these individuals who have performed things that I did not know. I hope that you will take advantage of this. If you didn't write everything down or get everything that was placed in the comments, you can pull this up again right here. We're filming through StreamYard, but it's on Facebook, and also you can find us on Discussions from the Otherhood, our channel on YouTube. So you can find us either place. You are hopefully going to be back with us again next week with more uh, Black women in horror and other types of topics. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful remainder of your weekend, and have a very productive next week. See you again next week right here in the Otherhood. Thanks a lot. Good night.
Good
Good night.
night.
Good night.